Hello everyone, welcome to brainyfounder channel. Our topic for today, I'm going to tell you about the place for personal development and self-discovery with all the gains and losses. The Mountain is You, Transforming Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery by Brianna Wiest, and I am just so excited to bring this bite-sized summary of some of the brilliant insights with you. Are you ready? Let's get started! Chapter 1 – Understanding Self-Sabotage. Brianna Wiest starts slowly defining what self-sabotage is and how really dire the impacts could be in our life. She begins by making an attempt to gravitate toward the traditional definition of self-sabotage. Anything we do, say, or think that takes away from our ability to follow through in the pursuit of our goals, happiness, and fulfillment is just a form of self-sabotage. Wiest describes a lot of times via very deeply ingrained patterns of behavior from something that happened in your previous experience, procrastination and self-doubt, perfectionism and fear of failure. She ticks through her long list of potential self-sabotage manifestations and offers relatable anecdotes and deep psychological insight on how these self-sabotaging behaviors can transform stable habits that keep you outside of your most special possibilities. Wiest continues to elaborate on the psychological mechanisms of self-sabotage by exploring the popular psychological terms and what they are about: fear of success, imposter syndrome, and the inner critic. There, she bemoans patterned ways of thoughts and behaviors that hold people back from reaching their full potential all one's life, consistently driving feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness. Central to the whole chapter, Wiest brings up recognition in relation to self-sabotage. Shining a light on the acts is the first step toward ending them. This chapter was meant to serve as more of a wake-up call, awakening the listener to various ways they are binding themselves down in self-sabotage and equipping them with information and insight on taking the journey of self-discovery and growth. Chapter 2 – Unpacking Limiting Beliefs. This book is so strong and takes Brianna Wiest through the maze that man has made out of limiting beliefs, and their hold is so powerful above the thinking, behaviors, and ultimately life. She starts by defining limiting beliefs as the deeply seated beliefs that limit the person's potential in some way and hold back personal growth. Wiest takes the audience through a process of finding and disentangling their own web of limiting beliefs, exhorting them to dig deep. She is much in the extremity of explaining how more than such beliefs generally are inculcated from the time one is a child or in relations to a former traumatizing experience, given a formation due to cultural conditionings and the norms of society. Authoritatively, Wiest brought all of those subconsciously held beliefs to light, while empowering the listeners to challenge and take apart these beliefs so that they are shown for what they are, nothing but an illusion. We follow Wiest in the book as he gives us pages of self-limiting beliefs seeping in our lives from time immemorial to our romantic relationships, career objective to self-esteem and life satisfaction. The scenarios are depicting what people resonate with for the first time with a pattern or theme existing in their lives. Wiest always explains how limitless beliefs and forms of negative self-talk create self-sabotage by reinforcing lower self-confidence. And Freud intervene. Another focus is the cultivation of self-awareness and mindfulness to observe when these beliefs arise and challenge them with compassion and understanding. Heidi Wiest ends the chapter by adding how people may put into application tools and strategies that they might use to reframe the limiting beliefs and trying to put new powering thoughts in their mind. She called on the participants to replace all such self-limiting narratives with affirming beliefs whose echo, more frequently than not, powerfully resonates with the ever-full values and aspirations, not to mention the invaluable reach of who we are. In other words, this chapter bores to the very soul and core of the complex relationship that exists between belief systems and behavior, helping one get out from under the shadow of limiting beliefs in the mind and come full throttle into life in a way that's much more real, complete, and self-directed in the process. Chapter 3: Embracing Self-Compassion. In this chapter, Brianna Wiest dives even deeper into exactly how powerful self-compassion truly is as an absolute core tool in transitioning away from self-sabotage and transforming towards self-mastery. For her, self-compassion is turning to oneself with the former virtues and more so at times of trial or failure or any other form of so-called inadequacy. Wiest explains how resilience and well-being are built from self-compassion by a repetitive cycle of self-criticism and judgments that allow self-sabotage to take hold. Alluding to many different psychological studies on the subject, from psychology to mindfulness, it puts forward radical dividends as a result / self-compassion when it comes to mental well-being, stress reduction, and life satisfaction. In the whole chapter, Wiest walks very closely with the reader, dispensing practical exercises and techniques on how to cultivate self-compassion. She refers to mindful practices of meditation and deep breathing that can result in self-compassion and emotional resilience. Wiest goes on to note the all-too-familiar myths that often surround the very concept of self-compassion that one may at first consider a sign of self-indulgence or weakness. It is rather allowing yourself to be human and imperfect while doing so with grace and kindness, Wiest describes. It paints out how one could be in a place of self-compassion, with a self-antidote to self-sabotage, and in the same time getting self-awareness in a larger measure than self-esteem, and by the end, with a lot of self. She advocates self-compassion to become the practicing life, where all human beings loved to establish acceptance of self as relevant means for self-development and transformation. Taken in general, this chapter alone shows totally how the cultivation of compassion for non-me-centered humans, but for the self and others, rigorously holds in the road to self-mastery and fulfillment. This kind of self-compassion is further used in the development of inner resilience, authenticity, and a strong sense of peace while walking oneself through the tribulations and trials life throws in their way. Chapter 4: Cultivating Self-Awareness. In this chapter, Brianna opened the discussion of venerating self-awareness as one of the ways to control self-sabotage and create a path toward personal development. She postulates that self-awareness is an individual's ability to witness and understand his thoughts, feelings, and behaviors non-judgmentally or unattachedly. Wiest says that developing self-awareness is the key to freeing oneself from a life full of unconscious and automatic patterns of self-sabotage into making conscious and empowered choices. He is going to walk step by step through all these practices of developing self-awareness, from mindfulness and meditation to journaling and introspection. She tells people to give themselves a few moments daily to be just with themselves, to grow curious and concerned for their thoughts, feelings, and motivations. Wiest goes further in the way in which self-awareness is interdependent with self-sabotage, referring to unconscious beliefs and feelings that drive behavior. In shedding light on these secret patterns, listeners begin to tease apart the roots of their self-sabotage and proactively take steps toward change, she adds. Wiest also observed some of the more general roadblocks standing in the way of self-awareness, from denial to avoidance to the fear of sitting with discomfort. She then goes on to discuss the way one can armor themselves against them, from cultivating a non-judgmental attitude toward oneself to seeking the counsel of well-meaning friends, mentors, or therapists. By the end of the chapter, Wiest had reflected on every single highly impacting way that cultivating self-awareness brings an increase in self-acceptance, authenticity, and inner peace. Her voice provides tasks with very authoritative statements such as, "It is not about perfection, it is about humanity, about learning to deal with ourselves and our life challenges with wisdom and compassion." In conclusion, the chapter is in strong appeal to go on a self-discovery journey out of self-empowerment. Development of self-awareness will lead the audience to have more insights into their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, which may lead them towards transformation and growth in their journey towards self-regulation. Chapter 5: Taking Responsibility. In such game-changing power, Brianna Wiest explains even further in this pivotal chapter just how far the power of responsibility over the decisions and ways of life cannot go. For her, responsibility could not be best defined as being the reaction to impulses or circumstances, but was the great ability to respond in all consciousness to the tests of life. Wiest reiterates that taking responsibility is a must for breaking away from self-sabotage and reinstating agency over destinies. Wiest guides listeners through the process of acknowledging and owning their actions, thoughts, and emotions, even when it feels uncomfortable or difficult. She explores the concept of radical responsibility, which involves accepting that we are the architects of our own lives and acknowledging the role we play in creating our reality. In the chapter, Wiest discusses obstacles to accepting responsibility like shame, guilt, and fear of failure. She suggests ways to overcome these challenges, such as being kind to oneself, seeing mistakes as learning opportunities, and being open to vulnerability for development. Moreover, Wiest delves into how taking responsibility relates to self-esteem by showing how owning up to our actions can empower us and boost our self-value. Understanding that we have the power to shape our futures can help us feel more in control and resilient when facing difficulties. As the chapter progresses, Wiest demonstrates how taking responsibility can bring about freedom, authenticity, and fulfillment in life. She underlines that while we may not control circumstances, we always have a choice in how we react to them. By embracing responsibility, listeners can break free from self-patterns and step into their potential as creators of their own destinies. In essence, this chapter reminds us of the significance of taking ownership of our decisions and seeing accountability as a path towards mastering ourselves and evolving personally. By embracing accountability for our journeys, individuals have the opportunity to develop increased strength, genuineness, and happiness, enabling them to lead a life filled with meaning and mindfulness. Chapter 6: Building Resilience. In Brianna Wiest, life becomes a major contributor toward overcoming self-sabotage, enjoying grace and strength in living through the challenges of life's insipid aspect. To her, the ability to be bounced back to form from setbacks, adversity, and hardships with one more experienced at the end increased in competence. Wiest walks one through the various steps of building resilience, pointing out that it can be grown and considered a skill that can be handled by practice and self-awareness. According to her, the thinking around resilience is marked with optimistic persistence and adaptability, where people stand to hail issues and mishaps. Throughout the chapter, Wiest passed along valuable strategies and techniques for developing resilience, turning it into an everyday process. The affected should be encouraged that failure is the ability to teach, develop a growth mindset, reach out whenever the times are hard to either their circle of friends or family members and to the mental health professionals. Wiest went further to conclude the connection of resilience toward the self-compassion, such that a person to be kind and tender to themselves in hard times. The listeners themselves then go to become more practicing in self-compassion, that is, adopting a positive approach towards life gives cause to strengthening emotional resiliency and inner strength so that one can handle life's curveballs all the more easily and gracefully. As Wist very nearly comes to the close of her chapter, she shows just how the building of resilience can yield greater confidence, courage, and well-being. Resilience is the ability to meet failure and adversities. This chapter reflects in general on what is pivotal in developing resilience, on how to resist self-sabotage and live a rewarding life. By constructing resilience, one acquires an internal resource and ability that helps him or her to stand up against various problems and develop amidst adversity. Chapter 7: Creating Empowering Habits. In discussing what proportion of our having and doing habits really play out in the life we live, Brianna Wiest targets just exactly how training the brain to form intentional habits acts as a force against self-sabotage. She begins by simply stating that habits can be safely called behaviors, practices, or even rituals which form a major part in daily living, done so often that most people don't even know. Wiest emphasizes habits can either lead us to get where we want and who we want to become and develop our sense of well-being through intentionally developed and changed habits that meet our dreams. Otherwise, they may become dishearteningly plain to stop at nothing to block our progress. She dares the listeners to first take stock of habits they have and assess if those are working for or against them. In the discussion, Wiest discusses strategies by making empowering habits support personal growth and sensibility to self-mastery. She even goes forth to expound on the concept of habit stacking, which involves adding the new habit into a pre-existing habit such that the existing routine literally blows the new one for better success. Wiest further expounds how the establishment of a new habit requires very clear goal definitions and intentions. Here, it is all about consistency, patience, and really being self-compassionate. She supports starting the baby from one habit at a time and slowly ratcheting upwards. Wiest elaborates on just how our habits and our doing things unconsciously serve for self-sabotage as well. This speaks to bringing awareness and intentionality to your viewers' habits in order to break free from the behaviors that hold them captive and actually change their lives. As is outlined towards the end of the chapter, Wiest explains that winsome habits might correspond to a greater output, happiness, and fulfillment. Habitual behaviors are the building blocks of success, Wiest says, and how we have a plan for our lives that will correspond more obviously with our values and ideals through the deliberate shaping of our habits. In general, the chapter is a little like a pragmatic guideline on how to use habits both in the fight against self-sabotage and for personal growth. Listeners may change their lives in a way that helps them to wholly unfold their ability to live happily and successfully. Chapter 8: Cultivating Self-Trust. Building self-reliance is a foundational and very significant part of dealing with cases of self-sabotage and working toward achieving a level of self-mastery. Self-trust, as Rushing defines, is having confidence in, assurance in, and reliance on a person's capacity and ability to make and execute decisions that stem from one's intuition. She argues that self-trust is important for living an honest life per se, doing what we love with vividness and authenticity. Wiest guides the listener through the move of building self-trust in life. Real attention is given to the core need for developing honest relations with oneself, based mostly on integrity and being self-aware. She felt that self-compassion breeds self-trust and that one needed to give themselves a little love and compassion in the face of doubt or uncertainty. Throughout the chapter, Wiest tracks feasible strategies and techniques by which one can develop self-trust and assurance in life. She wants you to make a commitment to following through on the promises you make to yourself by listening to your inner wisdom. She also shares how patience in listening to one's intuition and inner wisdom so that each human being can answer for oneself the challenges of life gracefully and confidently. Wiest emphasized the common pitfalls to self-trust, self-doubt, fears of failures, and betrayals here before that seemed like such a real concern. In that light, she recommends examples of how these barriers may break include reframing demeaning judgments and practice being fine just as we are, with self-compassion, while reaching out for help from trusted friends or other mentor figures. The last phase of the chapter was how self-trust breeds more self-confidence, toughness, and resourcefulness. She insisted that the trustee is not perfect and neither does he know everything, but the ability of living through life's blind spots with courage and authenticity. Generally, the chapter passes the all-important sense of development of self-trust as the major core development on the way of self-reliance and self-mastery. It is by the building of deep trust within ourselves that total self-sabotage will be completely overcome. Listeners go on to live the much more enriched, confident, and purposeful life. Chapter 9: Embracing Growth. Brianna Wiest explores the transformative journey of embracing growth as a lifelong process of self-discovery and self-mastery. She begins by defining growth as the continuous evolution and expansion of one's understanding, capabilities, and potential. Wiest emphasizes that growth is not a destination, but rather a mindset and way of being that invites us to embrace change, challenges, and opportunities for learning and development. Wiest guides listeners through the process of embracing growth, emphasizing the importance of adopting a growth mindset characterized by curiosity, resilience, and openness to new experiences. She encourages listeners to reframe failures and setbacks as opportunities for growth and self-discovery, recognizing that adversity can often be a catalyst for personal transformation. Throughout the chapter, Wiest shares insights and strategies for cultivating a growth-oriented mindset in daily life. She explores the importance of setting meaningful goals and intentions that align with our values and aspirations, fostering a sense of purpose and direction. Additionally, she encourages listeners to seek out opportunities for learning and self-improvement, whether through formal education, self-study, or personal development practices. Wiest also addresses common fears and obstacles that may arise on the journey of growth, such as fear of failure, fear of uncertainty, and fear of stepping outside of one's comfort zone. She offers practical strategies for overcoming these challenges, including cultivating self-compassion, building resilience, and seeking support from trusted friends, mentors, or mental health professionals. By the end of the chapter, Wiest illustrates how embracing growth can lead to greater fulfillment, meaning, and authenticity in life. She emphasizes that growth is a deeply personal and individual journey, unique to each individual's experiences, values, and aspirations. By embracing growth as a lifelong process, listeners can cultivate a deeper sense of self-awareness, purpose, and resilience, empowering them to live with greater joy, fulfillment, and meaning. Overall, this chapter serves as a powerful invitation to embark on a journey of self-discovery and self-mastery through the embrace of growth. By adopting a growth-oriented mindset and committing to continuous learning and development, listeners can overcome self-sabotage and unlock their full potential for happiness, success, and fulfillment. The Mountain is You: Transforming Self with Brianna Wiest seems not so much a book, but a road towards perfecting and empowering thyself. May it lead you into your very own road toward self-improvement and self-realization. If you want to know more detail about this book, click the link at the description, and if you like this content, don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe, so that you won't miss out on good knowledge from Brainy Founder channel. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.